Well, hello and welcome to another edition of Empowered Heart to Heart. So glad that you're here. And my name is Rhonda Simmons, and I am the founder and CEO of the Simmons Empowerment Foundation. And I'm so glad that you're with us another week for another broadcast, another podcast, another video, however you're watching or listening today. We're so glad that you're with us. And we hope that you will continue to be with us every Saturday at 12 noon Central Time on KRGN 98.5 FM. Make sure that you tune in. You can listen to us directly from our website at www.tsefi.org/radio. We want to be a blessing to as many people as we possibly can, because our mission at the Simmons Empowerment Foundation is to have a home for unwed teen moms, as well as empower them through pre and postnatal health education, job skills training, and coaching and counseling as needed. We're so glad to be able to serve the community and those who need us the most. Whether we like it or not, those of us who are maturing, or as I like to say, marinating, we need our younger generation. They have so much to offer. They are so talented and they have so many untapped skills that we need to help them harness and use in a positive way so that they can promote change in their lives and they can impact the society around them. That is why we created the Dear Future Me program, which empowers and improves college and career readiness for at risk students. It is an e course that we've developed, and we want students to be able to participate in this 100% virtual program so that they know the skills and learn the skills that they need to be successful, not only in college and career, but in life in general. It's going to take more than a great smile to be successful today. They're going to have to hone the skills and be equipped with the knowledge that they need to be successful. And so check out our Dear Future Me program. Again, you can go to our website at www.tsefi.org. While you're on the site, you also want to check out our scholarship program. We have $1,000 to give away to some eligible teenager this fall. The deadline to apply is August the 14th. So it's right around the corner. You want to apply so that you don't leave that $1,000 on the table. We want to give it away. There are no strings attached. You don't have to make any purchases. Just apply and see what God will do. And if you don't make the deadline, you can still apply, and the scholarship will be applicable for the spring semester. So we want to be that blessing as well. Make sure again that you're tuning in every week. You don't want to miss a message of hope or a conversation that heals or an interview that empowers. In fact, in the next couple of episodes of Empowered Heart to Heart, or broadcast or podcast, whatever you want to call it, in the next couple of weeks, we're going to be interviewing a couple of people whose life story directly aligns with our mission at the Simmons Empowerment Foundation. You don't want to miss those interviews. They are heartfelt interviews from ladies who have gone from struggling to success, who have gone from being a teen mom to having a career and a family, and they've been able to learn from all of their experiences so that they can be productive citizens in society today. You don't want to miss the next couple of weeks of broadcasts. And so, before I get into a message of hope today, I do want to share a little bit about myself, because one thing I know is that people want to know, why are you doing this? Where are you coming from? How do you connect? Well, one of the things that connects me so much to the Simmons Empowerment Foundation, and it's not just because it bears my name or I started it, it's because I'm on a mission. God gave me this vision for this organization 19 years ago before I even moved to Texas. And I've been in ministry for 30 years now. And so when I was in another state about to move here, I wanted to know from God, what am I supposed to do when I get here? I don't know anybody except for this man that I'm about to marry. And so we moved here. And before we even moved, God told me to start this home for unwed teen moms. And you talk about out of the box. I'm like, okay, this is out of my comfort zone, but this is what God has commissioned me to do. And I did not know till I got here and took my first college course so many years ago, called The Problems of Children and Adolescents, that at the time, Texas had the highest teen pregnancy rate in the country. As of right now, according to the CDC, we're number 9, but we are number 1 in repeat teen births. That's even more shocking. That means, just to break it down and keep it very simple, that means Texas has the highest repeat teen births. Our teenagers in our state are higher, have a more likelihood, and are producing more babies, multiple babies, more than one, than any other state in the country. That is not exciting news. All that does to me is know that I am in the right place, and it makes me want to work and want to help somebody. There's an old hymn that says that if I can help somebody as I pass along, if I can cheer somebody with a word or a song, if I can show somebody that he's traveling wrong, then my living shall not be in vain. And so this is our mission. This is why we do what we do. This is why we work so hard. Now, you only see me and you only hear me, but I have a board. There are people behind me that are supporting everything that we're doing, and we're working together and collaborating with our community so that we can have a greater impact on teen moms, and not only them, but on all at risk students. That's why our Dear Future Me program is available to all at risk students, whether you're a boy or a girl, as long as you're between the ages of 15 and 21, our program is for you. And so, one of the things, just to give you more about my background, I talked about the foundation, but on a personal note, my parents were both handicapped, and that brought with it a whole lot of challenges. And I grew up really fast, and I had to deal with things as a child that most children don't have to deal with unless you are the child of handicapped parents. And they did the best that they could, and I appreciate them. They're no longer with us today, and they gave me a great foundation in church, and they taught me so many great fundamental things. But having parents who were handicapped created a tender heart in me for those who are broken, for those who need help. And I'm drawn, and I'm just coming to realize this in the last maybe 10 years of my life or so. I'm coming to the point where I realize and accept the fact that I am drawn to the broken. I am drawn to those who can't help themselves. I'm drawn to those who want to do better but can't do better for whatever reason. And so my heart and my passion are for those people who just cannot seem to make life better for themselves. And God has given me the skill and the talent and the education to be that gap filler for people who need us the most. Speaking of education, in the midst of all that I went through as a child and as a teenager, education was my escape. And I know, to anyone who is younger listening to this, you probably just rolled your eyes thinking, no. But it was my escape. I didn't want to do drugs because I didn't want to lose my mind, and didn't want to drink because I didn't want to lose my mind, and didn't want to be promiscuous because I didn't want to lose my mind. And so all of this was happening in my young life, and education was an escape. It was the one thing that I could control. I could own. I could say, this is what I'm doing. in the midst of all that I was going through with my handicapped parents, God helped me to get on the Junior National Honor Society and then the National Honor Society when I was a senior in high school. I went on and got a job. I did get a couple of scholarships to college, but then my dad died and things happened. And I'm not trying to make this a sad story. I'm trying to show you that there was always something down in me that I call the want to. I always kept feeling like I can do better. I can learn better. I can grow. There's got to be something better than this. And education was my ticket out. And even when I moved here to Texas almost 20 years ago, I didn't have a college education. But today in 2022, I'm happy to say that I am 2 semesters away from my doctorate in educational leadership. And I am so excited. By this time next year, I will have a doctor in front of my name, and I'm excited about that. But it's always been my escape. Even as I progressed in my college career, I look back at times when I started a new semester, or maybe I took a break, and what prompted me to continue, there was always that drive in me. I've got to do better. There was this want to. And that's what I want to talk to you about today as we talk about breaking cycles part two. Last week, we talked about part one of breaking cycles, and I pray that you listened and that you heard what you needed to hear from God about breaking cycles, because I do have a message of hope for you today, like I did last week. And so last week, and if you missed the episode, if you missed the broadcast last week, don't worry. Go to our website at www.tsefi.org, or you can just Google us, the Simmons Empowerment Foundation. We will come up right at the top, and you will go to our podcast page, and you can download the podcast from last week's broadcast. And so there's a whole lot of casting going on. And so on last week, we talked about breaking cycles, how God breaks cycles. And we talked about Joseph in particular in the Bible, how he went from being the favored son to a victim, to a slave, to a prisoner, and to finally a place of power. And so God took him on a journey from being victimized to being elevated to second in command in Egypt. And I'm not going to repreach that message because I really do want you to go back and listen to last week's broadcast. But today I want to talk about breaking cycles from a different perspective, because last week we focused on all that God can do. We focused on how he can break cycles in your life, no matter where you've been, what you've done, the choices that you've made, no matter what has gone on in your life, God can break those cycles. But today I want to talk about a particular woman in the Bible, in the New Testament. She doesn't even have a name listed in Mark chapter 5. We just always call her the woman with the issue of blood. She had a blood disorder, and so it was causing her so many problems. And the Bible talks about in Mark chapter 5 that she was a certain woman which had an issue of blood 12 years. That's a long time to be sick. Trust and believe, I know that when you're sick a long time, people stop coming to visit. People stop coming, they stop calling, they stop texting. They get so used to you being sick, they forget about you. And I'm not throwing shade on anybody. That just seems to be the way life goes. And this woman had been sick with this issue of blood for 12 years. And the Bible says, and she had suffered many things of many physicians. She went to the doctors. And I just want to break this down and make it relevant today. She went to the doctor. She went to the therapist. She went through the 12-step programs. She went through rehab. She went through all of these things that we would use today, all of these resources. She went through all of these things, and she had suffered many things. Try this experimental drug. Try this therapy. Try this program. You just think your way out of it. Try all these kind of resources that she went through, and all of these things like we would try today. Oh, read this good book, or read that author's work, or do this and go here and go there. And she had suffered many things at the hands of doctors and had spent all that she had. She spent all of her money. She spent all of her resources. She had spent all of her time. She had spent all that she had within her. She was fighting for her life. And I just want to pause for a moment because I encourage somebody, don't stop fighting for your life. Don't stop fighting for what you want. Don't stop fighting for what you need to have happen in your life. Don't stop. Don't give up. This is the one thing I love about this woman. She doesn't even have a name listed here, but she's known by the disease that she had. She's known by the problem that she had. She's a woman with the issue of blood. How do people identify you? Are you the woman who had a baby as a teenager? Are you the young man who's strung out on drugs? Are you the person who is just full of mistakes and failures? Or how are you identified? How are people relating to you? When they think of you, what do they call you? What do they identify you as? And I'm not talking about pronouns today. I'm talking about you as an individual. Whoever you are, how are people identifying you? Are they identifying you by the problem that you have? Are they identifying you by the situations that have come upon you? It does not say that this woman had done anything to bring this sickness upon her, but life just happened. She just got sick, and she was now identified by her disease. She was identified by the thing that had absorbed all of her energy, all of her, because there's life in the blood. It had absorbed all of her finances, because money answers all things. It had absorbed all the doctor's knowledge. She had come to the end of herself. There was nothing else that could be done. In fact, after all that she had spent, the Bible says that she was nothing bettered, but she instead had grown worse. What do you do when you have done everything that you know to do and things still get worse? What do you do when you are following the plan to a T, when you're doing everything the doctor said, when you're doing everything that the therapist said, and you're not getting any better? What do you do? My God, help me today. When nothing is working, no matter how much you try, this woman had a want to. And that's what I want to talk about in breaking cycles, because she, unlike Joseph, she decided that my fate was in my hands, her own hands. She decided one day that she had heard, when she had heard of Jesus, something clicked in her brain and realized there is something I've got to do. You see, Jesus was on his way to someone else's house to perform a miracle for somebody else. He wasn't paying any attention to this woman. He was surrounded by a crowd of people. He was surrounded by people thronging him and pushing and shoving and just trying to get to Jesus. But there was this woman who was identified. I can't get away from that. Identified, my God. That is why when I mention our Dear Future Me program, how it improves college and career readiness for at-risk students. I don't even like using that term, but it's what the state education system identifies students as being at risk if certain things have happened in their life. I'm telling you what I know for a fact, because I am a certified school principal. I know for a fact that the state education system has identified students. If you've ever been in the foster care system, the state says you're at risk. And at risk for what? For high school dropout. If you have a parent who's incarcerated, the state says that you are at risk for high school dropout. If you have a baby before the age of 21, or if you're pregnant, you are considered at risk for high school dropout according to the state. And so these things are here to identify you. Isn't that something that you are identified by the mistakes that you made, by the circumstances that are beyond your control, by the diseases that you have? Don't fear, because this is exactly what this woman went through. She was identified by the problem, but yet she heard that Jesus was passing by, and she decided, this is where I'm trying to get to. She decided that she would go to Jesus in the press behind him. And see, here's the thing. According to Jewish law, she was not supposed to be out in public. She was considered unclean. In fact, she was supposed to, if she had to go out, she was supposed to yell, "Unclean, I'm unclean," so that people would know to stay away from her. Aren't you glad that we don't live in those times today? My goodness, how many of us would be yelling down the street, "I'm unclean. Look at the problem. Look at the mess I've made of my life. My goodness, what if I had to just scream it every time I went out the door? Look at what I've done. Look at the problem. Look at the mess I've made. Look at my life. It's in a wreck. It's in the shambles." But this woman said, "I've got to get to Jesus." She realized that all of her resources had not worked. She had nothing else to lose. At this point, if Jesus didn't help her, she was going to die in her disease. She was going to die in her sickness. But the Bible says that this was a decision. It doesn't say God told her to go where Jesus was. It does not say that God spoke and sent an angel or a prophet and said, "Thus saith the Lord, you shall go where Jesus is." No, none of that happened. She made it up in her mind that she was going to break the cycle. She had a want to break the cycle. God has empowered each and every one of us to break cycles in our life. Yes, He has. I know God is awesome, and there are some things, many things, many things that only God can do. But He has made us in His image. While we are not God, but He has made us in His image, and He has empowered us to break cycles in our life. This woman made up in her own mind, of her own accord, and she decided that the cycle gets broken today. It happens today. The cycle is going to be broken today. And she said within herself, if I don't, oh, glory to God. She said within herself, if I can just touch the hem of his garment, I shall be healed. I shall be made whole. She never intended to have a conversation. She didn't want to have a conversation. She didn't want to stop where Jesus was going. She didn't want to interrupt the processional. She just wanted to touch the hem of his garment. Look at that faith. Somebody listening or watching me today is sitting there or driving in your car, and you're saying to yourself, I've got the want to change my destiny. I've got the want to break cycles, but everything I've tried has failed. There's another old devotional song that we would sing in church that says, when you tried everything and everything has failed, try Jesus. Maybe that describes your life. You tried everything. You tried what you thought would work, what the doctor said would work, but none of it has worked. We need a lasting miracle. We don't need a quick fix. We don't need just a good feeling and have goosebumps running up and down our arms. But what we need is a permanent change, a permanent healing, and a permanent deliverance. This woman decided in her own mind, I'm breaking the cycles. I've got the want to. And she ventured out into the crowd. She crawled on her hands and knees, didn't even want to draw attention to herself. And she reached the hem of Jesus. And it was something about her touch that was so different than anybody else around Jesus, till he stopped dead in his tracks and said, who touched me? And the disciple said, bless your heart. And I'm saying it Texas style, bless your heart, Jesus. We are surrounded by so many people bumping into us and pushing and shoving. And you're going to ask that question. And that look, that bless your heart kind of look. Well, Jesus said, no, 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 no. Someone has touched me because I perceive virtue has gone out of me. Power has gone out of me. I want to tell you, this woman's faith drew something out of Jesus. She got her healing from him just by touching the hem of his garment. I want to ask you a question today. Do you have enough faith to believe that you have the power to break cycles and that God will give you the miracle that you desire? Do you have that kind of faith? Well, I'm here to encourage you. Don't give up. Don't give up. Have the want to break cycles in your life. That is why we're here on this broadcast, on this podcast, on YouTube, on social media, because God has given us a mandate to give you messages of hope and conversations that heal. And pretty soon we'll have some interviews that empower, because God is trying to break cycles in your life, and He's trying to get you to have the want to break your own cycles. You have that kind of power. Today is your opportunity. It is your chance, your chance, your chance. What are you going to do with it? How are you going to respond? Because here's the point where a response is needed. Because this woman had a made up mind. You got to get your mind right. You've got to have a made up mind. I'm breaking cycles. No matter what has been transpiring in my life up to this very second, I am breaking cycles today. If you're watching on the podcast or you're watching on YouTube, I need you to put it in the chat or in the comments. Put it in there, breaking cycles, breaking cycles, breaking cycles. Today is your day. You've got to be ready. And I encourage you, come back every weekend and join with us on our radio broadcast at KRGN 98.5, because God is on the move. He has sent me here, empowered heart to heart. We're just having a heart to heart chat, and you're going to walk away from this experience empowered. Make sure you check out our website at www.tsefi.org. TSEFI.org. That stands for the Simmons Empowerment Foundation Incorporated. We want you to check us out. We're on the radio. We're on our podcast. We're on YouTube. The same name, Empowered Heart to Heart. We want to be a blessing in your life. We want God to break cycles, but we also want you to stand up by the power of God and get what is rightfully yours. Healing is rightfully yours. Salvation is rightfully yours. Whatever you need from God, it is rightfully yours. But you've got to have the want to. I encourage you today, make sure you tune in every Saturday at 12 noon Central Time, 1 p.m. Eastern Time for Empowered Heart to Heart. May the Lord bless you, and may you be empowered in the days ahead.